It's not even that. It's you find it by admitting you can't find it. Yeah, in a way. By giving up the ghost, and then the true spirit starts navigating through you and conducting you and directing you, just like in recovery, just like in Course in Miracles. It would say, all you need is a little bit of willingness, yeah? Combine that with the willingness of this spirit, or this energy, or this intention of the universe, whatever you want to call it, but there is grace. By that little bit of willingness to open up to grace, and how it happened to me in recovery is I admit I truly got that I was not managerial quality. I just totally got it. I got it from a giant demonstration. I spent 2 years in a drug and alcohol program called Delancey Street, and I graduated from there. I hadn't drank while I was there for 2 years or years. And after I left, I reviewed what was going on, and I didn't like the people much there, some of them. I didn't like the rules. I didn't like the way you ran it. But I had to begrudgingly admit that my life looked better with them running it than it ever did with me running it. Yeah? And it was a very sober, rude awakening. Hey, Jesus Christ, I'm not meant to be steering the boat, so to speak, you know what I mean? And I've never steered it anyway. But part of the suffering is thinking you're steering, really. So that made a big... so when I came into AA, which was after this event of Delancey Street, and I went on a 10-month run, and then I entered AA, the third step made a whole lot of sense to me, which is to turn your will and life over to the care of a higher power, of your own understanding, yeah? Now, over time, I hope that changes into, well, it's wonderful, we have it right here. The third step, I hope it changes to I made a decision to turn our will, and what's that decision? It's just a little willingness, yeah? Made a decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understood Him, but over to the care of God as God understands itself. I would say that's a much clearer way to go, yeah? So that way, you're put in a position of finding out the aspects and the diameters and the size of God, instead of having the size of God fit the frame of your understanding. Yeah? You surrender your understanding and then see what happens. It's going to be a much grander demonstration than you could have ever imagined. Yeah? So I have a higher power, if you want to call it a higher power. It's nameless, but let's call it a higher power. I have a higher power of its own understanding. Yeah? So it just reveals to me what it's about. Yeah, you know what I mean? I don't ask for it to shed light on how I think it is. I just open to the fact and say, you reveal what's going on. Yeah? And it does. And it's been doing it for quite a while. Yeah? So in that revelation, the basic premise that is based on is that I'm not managerial quality just gets more and more galvanized all the time. And the miraculous things happen. Because the thought system that's been the navigator, yeah, and of course it's navigating from a past map of an imaginary place, and it's trying to navigate the waters of now, moving towards a future goal. It's never even acknowledging the now. It's using this moment to entertain the past and the future, basically, yeah? If you just look at it, one, let's say, segment of it during the day, you'll see its value system. Yeah? It values the past and the future much more than now. One segment, and that theme goes through all of its thoughts. Yeah? The whole thought system values the past. It's unbelievable because its premise isn't really about life, it's about you in life. The you that you're not. Yeah? And it has to remember you, because you're not actually so. The you that you feel you are, and that's actually was thought first, but now you feel it, that vague sense of self, is a product that was produced. It's not organic. It's not innate. You didn't have it when you were a kid. We grew into it, yeah? We grew into it over time. As soon as the brain developed to a certain point, then it started entertaining the possibility that you weren't entertaining the first, they say, 18 months about it of your life. So in this body. And therefore, at that time when you weren't, before the 18 months, you weren't thinking you could be anywhere other than where you were, because there was a fucking absurd impossibility. The only reality was what was going on. So if it was shitting or burping or crying or that was the only thing that was happening in the context of awareness that it represented. Yeah, that was the only thing. The past and future came into the play later. It downloaded from this selfing, this process of selfing, because the selfing has one agenda. It's to be about you. Yeah, it's actually about a you. But then the mind becomes identified with that presentation. Now it becomes you. Yeah? And then things happen and change. Usually what starts becoming absent is wonder and awe, immediacy, unbidden joy. Those things become very, very rare. And now you have an understanding, I know what I want, what's mine, what's yours, that I want to be mine. All like that starts happening. You get moved from, in a sense, the Garden of Eden to a fucking, to Hoboken, New Jersey or something, It's like a very, so it has to forget, in a sense, that, and it uses its story about the past to remember a you now. Yeah? So right now, where there's a freedom from that you, there's a mental activity that's trying to supplant that freedom with its story. Yeah? And it does pretty good, really. Most of our attention and interest has been captured by it, and we basically have gone asleep in a way, and in a weird way we're like comfortably numb, even though we may be extremely uncomfortable. It becomes familiar to us, yeah? So we find solace in nostalgia, and even in misery, it can become familiar. You can become familiar with misery, as long as there's a sense of control that I know I'm going to be miserable as much as I was today, tomorrow. It produces a weird mental security, And so what happens is, you're being on the pulse of life, your interest and attention gets moved, and you start picking up not a heartbeat or your breath, you start picking up your mental oscillations. And your mind gets really agitated. And so its surface, which has the ability to reflect, is now agitated, and it's not reflecting anything. So what it has to do is assume a lot, because it's not seeing things clearly, but it wants to come to some kind of conclusion, so it just assumes. It just makes up a story. It just, this is just the way it is, because it's not seeing anything clearly, And so the agitation begets more agitation. And more agitation does what? Begets more agitation, And so when the agitation is confronted with the possibility of peace, like an innate peace of mind, what it does is that being a topic to it as the subject, it just gets agitated about the peace. I've seen people who are supremely agitated about enlightenment. They are. They've entertained a concept of ultimate freedom, and it's producing tons of mental suffering every day. They go on and on to meetings, always feeling that they're not getting it, reading more and more DVDs, this and the DVDs, this is going from one to another, to another, to another, to another, and it's like a form of slavery. And what's provoking it, or is like the carrot in front of that fucking horse, is the idea of enlightenment. The idea that there is a possibility I can be ultimately free, but the ultimate freedom, here we go, you got two now. Hey guys. The ultimate freedom wants to be had by what's the limitation, the seeming limitation to the freedom. So now the seeming limitation doesn't want to give up its reality of being so it has to make enlightenment unso. Not so, but uses it to tantalize, to agitate, to sort of provoke you to be in this modality of constant fucking seeking. Yet you feel it's noble because your mind has gilded or put a gold flake veneer on this concept that it's different than any other concept. It's enlightenment. No, it's a concept. The basic premise of it is it's conceptual. It's a product that you find in the mental realm, and therefore the enlightenment isn't going to bring you about to you what you wanted, but what the pursuit of it is going to bring you the opposite of what you thought enlightenment was. You're going to be agitated about enlightenment. So it's going to use the idea of becoming enlightened to be enslaved to the possibility of me becoming enlightened. Where all the great masters would say it's in forgetting the self, not improving the self or having the self realize something. The self can only realize by its own limitations. They're old neutered realizations. They're just collectibles. Yeah? It's like spiritual memorabilia. You just collect realizations, but nothing radically shifts. Because what's collecting, the frame of what's collecting the realizations, neuters the realizations to make it into an object that it has. You can't see it. It immediately, by its claiming to be the one who has the realization, there goes the realization. Now it's frozen, you have it, but its active influence, its ability to activate has been neutered. It's not activating anything. It's just activating more seeking and more conceptualization. Yeah? It's been claimed and hijacked by the mental process, and you believe that it stood above that. It was like the lotus. It would never be in the mud. It's fucking under the mud. You go down under the mud. Yeah, you're in there thinking you're somewhere that you're not. The clearer realization is realize you've never been anywhere. In a sense, you've never been in any of the predicaments you think you've been in. You've never been in them, what you are. Yeah? So, you have to see, for this place to be a subjective experience, there must be at one point, there must be subjectivity that's allowing that to occur. Yeah? In other words, for something to seem to be real, it must be seeming to be real to what's real. Because what else could lend it the sense of reality but reality, yeah? So if you see on a very small scale that you are giving something the meaning it has, on a much bigger or more expansive scale, that's all that's going on. So if something really seems so, that feeling of really seeming so isn't coming from that thing. It's coming from the mind, which is the reality, believing that to be so. It's the belief in it is what lends it a reality. And then, when it's lent the reality, this is also lent the reality, and then that can hurt this. Yeah? And what's real, that's still untouchable, is dismissed in this level of experience, and then you experience exquisite suffering. By having the things that you've dreamt, by having them have the ability, which is given over by whatever you want to call you, by having the things you've dreamt now starting to affect the dreamt, which is this body. This isn't the dreamer. This is facilitating the dream. Yeah? The dreaming is going on, and then it facilitates this event, this experience through this like projector or this camera location. But it ain't the camera that's taking the picture. Yeah? It's not the telescope that's seeing the stars. It's the person, it's the subject, not the person, in this example, true subjectivity that's looking through what we call the person, which is the telescope. It's looking through it, and that is what's seeing the stars. Yeah? It's seeing the light of all lights differentiated into a million lights. And why that is the telescope facilitates that perception. Yeah? It's seeing undifferentiated light, but while it sees, now the seeing goes through this telescope, it sees differentiated light. The telescope isn't seeing the light. It's what's seen through the telescope, yeah? So what's causing this to facilitate a conscious event isn't the body, it's mind, yeah? So the mind is the seer. The mind is the dreamer. So when something really feels real to you, the only way it could feel real to you if you were the only way is that you're the fucking reality. How could false evidence appear to be real? What could it only appear to be real to? The reality. Yeah? It couldn't appear to be real to anything else that's false. They wouldn't have any idea what reality was. Everything would be fucking false. False would see false and false. But now, we're the reality, seeing something, and it appears to be true to us, and therefore, in that seeing it, giving it that meaning, it gets to be quote-unquote real. Yeah? And that's why if it's really so for you that something's real, it's better to give that person a pail of water when his house is on fire, not to give him a philosophy. Because at that point, the mind is dreaming and it's given its reality over to something. And now it's in this seeming relationship with it, and it's getting hit by slings and arrows by it. Yeah? And to say that's not happening may not be helpful. Maybe you gotta say, go help somebody. Get out of the fray because you're the cause of the fray. If you step out of the situation and then look at it again, it may look totally different because you're giving it the meaning it has. I had a guy in recovery who had lots of years. I remember this. I was at this meeting. I call it a special meeting. I won't name it. But I went to this meeting, and this guy had 20-something years, and he met this lady who he was really liked, and she was in the wine business. And she and her friends, everything was great in their lives, great clothes and this and that. And they were drinking wine, and it looked so great. And he said, Jesus, I got to either leave or I'm going to start drinking. Yeah? He was in this freaking made-up dilemma. And I said, after the meeting, I said, why don't you go do some service and then look at the situation again? Maybe a little more than two extreme possibilities may appear. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the way you're looking at it from is giving it the meaning, and it's either or. Either gotta totally leave her or fucking start drinking. You know what I mean? It's freaking insane. And so it's not like, get back in there and get work on it. No, step out of it. Get out of yourself, then go and look at it, and maybe you'll see, it's not as bad as I thought. I had a guy who just went through it. Because it was something, I don't want to get too specific, but he made something, it was a perfect example. He made something to seem to be happening that wasn't happening. And there was distance between him and the other person, so he had a lot of time with himself. And it turned into this huge thing where he's going to have to fly and go this and that. And then 3 days of this, he calls me back, and it seems like nothing actually was happening. The whole big fucking, this is the big one, this is totally, but they're fucking me, totally was seen differently. This is happening all day. That's why they say we're making mountains out of molehills. How can a molehill look like a mountain unless what makes both of them give that reality to it? Yeah. But that reality can only reach a level of seemingly so, because there's only one reality, and that's what's looking right now. Yeah? What's looking is the only reality. Now, things can reach levels of seeming to be real, and you notice when somebody's in something bad, it's fucking real as real can be. I mean, they're cooking, and it's as real can be. Yes? But the only thing is, it's not real. Can only reach the level of seemingly so, which means it can appear to be true or false to you. To you. See how it all goes back? Seemingly, it appears to be true or false to you. That just blows my mind. Rest on that. Because all the while, since I was young, the kernel of victimhood would start occurring. And thinking that I was so powerless and so weak, and there's all these things way beyond my control, were totally fucking with me, and this and that and that and this. And it seemed to be so, because my head was asleep to its own nature. Yeah? And the most demonstration of its nature was by giving meaning to other things. And other things seemed as real can be, and this seemed as real can be. Yeah? But the reality that they seemed to have was lent to them by the reality. Yeah? And then St. Francis would say, hey, what you're looking for is what's looking. Or Dogen said, the study of all of Buddhism is the study of the self, and the study of the self is to forget the self. Yeah? What happens when you forget the self? When the dreamer or the dreaming forgets being the dreamt object, what does it naturally open up to? That it's that. Yeah? That it's the reality beyond all seemingly so's and seemingly not so's. Yeah? That it's contextual. What it is isn't determined by how things appear. Yeah? The light can't be close or far in its realm. It's everywhere, so there's no center. Yeah? Everywhere is the center. Yeah? There's no special gated community that you have to go try to get some of the context back and bring it to the content. You realize there is no content in a sense. You're not in the content. You're in the content, but you're not of the content, like Jesus says. You're in this world, but you're not of this world. That's the incredible coolness of it. You're in this experience, but the bottom line is you're not of this. You're not of body. You're not of separation. You're not of time. You're not of a lot of these things that we take to be so. We're not of that. Yeah? That's the door, the way out is realizing you can never be in. That's how it hit me. I blame myself with spirituality. I blame myself with drug addiction. I couldn't transcend the condition I seemed to be in. And it fucking really flipped me out. Because I could never say I gave it 100% spirituality, but I could say in drug addiction I gave it 100%. I was totally devoted, I swear. I fucking loved cocaine, shooting coke. And I adored it, I worshipped it, I prostituted myself for it, I gave everything I had, everything you had, if I could get it. I did everything, every day, living under that yoke, just for the little visitations when I shot it up. Yeah? Put up with anything, fucking anything, more and more. Every bottom I hit, I moved in, and then I waited to get evicted to the worst bottom, and that's what happened. So I believe, and yet I still didn't transcend it. I didn't get out of self. I believe that if I got my head wired enough, it was like barbed wire, it would snap and I'd be awake. Yeah? It didn't fucking work. I'm here to tell you. Then it dawned on me after the downloads of what's, my sense of what so is Paul or whatever, you can't get out of what you've never been in. You can't transcend an imaginary place. You know what I mean? You can't leave somewhere you're not at. And if all the leavings seem to fail, maybe it's because you're not where you think you are trying to leave. Maybe if you would just tell the truth about that and stop and pause and let everything catch up to you, you'd realize everything would reveal their true nature, which is they're unreal. You're the only reality. Not as Paul, but as what's looking. Yeah. And then when that finally starts waking up out of a dream, what it does is the same meaning giving goes on, but now the meaning is that it's given to the reality. You start giving the meaning of reality to the reality, and you know what? It verifies. And you finally hit pay dirt. You were trying to make things that were unreal real all your fucking life. Wow, now you're giving the reality to reality, and it's going to fucking show up in your life. It's going to produce traveling later. You're going to have an expansive state. Yeah, things are going to occur to verify. Hey, all right. And in that, while you're giving that the reality of being real, which it is, you'll start having a freedom or an immunity to the reality you once gave to things that aren't, because the meaning will be taken away from them. And then that thing that will look like a juicy fruit, you'll see it as a husk, You'll see it as inherently empty. I will, and you know what I mean? It's so much clearer if you see it than reading about everything being inherently empty. If you actually see everything is inherently empty, it's better than 800 pages of scripture. Because it has a profound impact on the mind itself, and that's the only thing that needs to be impacted here. Everything out here is, if this gets impacted, everything changes, because me and you are giving everything all the meaning it has. So if the meaning giver is shifted, or the meaning giving is changed, then your whole experience here is going to change. Yeah? That's why, in the days, like you go into, like let's say you go to a temple and stuff, and you do the same routine every day, but it's always fucking new, because the mind is alive, yeah? They don't have to go jump off of cliffs and bungee and do this and do extreme sports. They're having an extreme experience just fucking tilling the land at 7 in the morning and having some tea. Because every day, I go to this one place behind the Mill Valley Library. I must have walked it like 1,000 times. It's fucking great every time. It's 5 minutes away. I don't have to verify I'm going on a nature trail by driving 4 hours somewhere. You know what I mean? Having a big day pack, and all the gear. I just walk behind there, and it fucking, there's a joy that's produced, and it's not coming from there. Yeah? It's coming from the joy giver. The fucking nature isn't the joy giver. This is the joy giver. That triggers it. Go back to what triggers it. Yeah. I mean, that's just seeing blue is blue. That's fucking common sense. You know what I mean? Something works. Stop thinking about it. Work it. Just go ahead. Show up and see. And then when it changes, you'll know. And then you go some other place if you want. Yeah. It becomes very simplistic. Yeah. Because now you're not led in the imaginary cornfield, going out, trying to dig your way around things and can't see because it grows so quick. You have a different kind of view. Yeah? And yet it wasn't produced by any thought or effort on your part. It was just always available, but now it's being available. It isn't like it wasn't there, something brought it, and you especially didn't bring it. It was always available, but now it's being available. Yeah? It was imminently always available, but now potentially it's being available. Yeah. Look at these two dogs.
Purely present.
I mean, they have one of the greatest, the mind manifesting there has a great strategy. They got humans cleaning up after them. People walking around picking up their shit all day. They got dog hospitals. You ever see them? Dog palaces.
Oh, yeah.
People got their poodles better shape than like 3/4 of the people on the planet. And what do? Just make the stupid dope think I love him. He'll take care of me forever.
Laughing at you, folks.
Baba, come here. Come here, my friend. You remember me, I hope, yes. Frodo. Yes. My Chiaweenie.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, for the people who can't see, there's a beautiful little dog here, worshipping at the feet of the teacher. He just pissed on my shoe. Oh, Chiaweenie. See that? It just wins you right over, doesn't it? They give you one look and you're back there. Who the hell is petting you all day? You know what I mean? Really? Can you imagine if I walked up to see he started petting me. Oh, it's all right, Paul. Here's a treat. Here's a treat, Paul. All right. I'll clean up after you, Paul. Any questions? Right, we'll have a short one, eh? Was that? It was short and sweet, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. We don't need to go into more depth. It's an imitation, remember. It's just there to stimulate what's already there. Yeah?
More, I'm just getting into it.
What's looking is what you're looking for. That simple statement saves you a lot of time. Yeah? And time has a huge effect here. So it's a damn good thing to say. Yes? You can come to a point of ease quicker, and therefore you'll forget a lot of the stuff. And I'll tell you, a lot of the joy is what's absent. Yeah? What's absent in your life. Because what happened? The meaning that was being given to it has changed. And where was that meaning issuing forth? It seemed to be coming from you. Yeah? It was not. If you think it's coming from outside of you, that's victimhood. If you're believing someone is laying a meaning on you, is imposing everything on you, that the only thing you can do is pray for them to change. That's not a powerful position, yes? No questions? Cool.